Where have all the good seats gone? Gone forever. I know. You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey guys, it's Erica from America, your favorite flight attendant. And don't worry, I won't be singing anymore today. But can you believe somebody actually once complained about my singing on a plane? I mean, do you know how lucky you have to be if your flight attendant is singing on a plane? That means she's in a good mood, or he. But that is not actually what we're here for today. Today, guys, we are here to get you guys some more space on a plane. I'm gonna be showing you some secrets that I think a lot of travelers aren't really aware of. Only like the travelers that travel the most. Today, I'm doing a little bit of Q&A and I am digging into 3 topics: claustrophobia, agoraphobia, and mysophobia. That's right, guys. Fear of Santa Claus, fear of sweaters, and fear of mice. Just kidding. So claustrophobia and agoraphobia are both a type of claustrophobia. One is just the fear of the tight spaces. The other one is fear of tight spaces in a crowd, like a crowded elevator. Both could apply to a plane. And then mysophobia is more commonly known as germophobia. I'm not going to be really deep diving into germophobia, but people who are germophobic, they are going to find something in this video as I focus more on getting you guys more space. So let's jump into this. For the Q&A today, I can't actually find the comment that the subscriber left because they left it a little while ago and I've had hundreds and hundreds of comments since, and I don't remember which video it was on. I do remember what the comment said. This subscriber, I'm going to assume it's a she, so I'm going to refer to them as if they're a she. She said she had gone to the doctor and gotten medication for claustrophobia for a trip and that it did not work. And she has to go on a trip soon. She's absolutely terrified and she wanted to know if I could give her any tips about claustrophobia and would I make a video. So that's what I'm doing today. Today, I'm going to walk you guys through a lot of different things that will help you if you're claustrophobic or agoraphobic, or if you just want more room on a plane. And of course, some of these things are going to be great tips for germophobics because they're going to immediately see, oh, less people, more space. And they're going to connect the dots that maybe they didn't connect before. So that is the question. And we're going to be going through several topics today. I'm going to go through booking. I'm going to go through finding the seats. I'm going to talk about airports. I'm going to talk about bathrooms. So there's a lot of things that we're going to get into, including pricing. Tip number 1, you have to look at your travel differently now. If you don't know this already, since COVID, there's been a lot of changes in the airline travel industry. During COVID, a lot of the planes were incredibly empty. And in order to basically save money, not only were they furloughing crews right and left, I mean, they probably were trying to cut about 40% of their staff from ground crew to flight attendants and pilots all the way up. And they really didn't expect flying to come back for like 10 years. But it came back the next year in 2021. And all of a sudden, the planes were packed and we were short staffed everywhere and they went to a hiring frenzy. However, during COVID, one of the things that they did was that they cut a lot of the routes that had like no passengers, a lot of direct routes. And they started doing connections through hubs instead. The problem with that is that they never brought them back. Why would they? Before COVID, I would say most of the flights that I flew as a regional flight attendant were probably about 75 to 80% full. And since COVID, they're like 90 to 100% full. Why would they bring more flights back and make less money on each flight when they can just overcrowd all of the planes? So you have to look now at your day of travel differently. Part of the reason that I say that is because there aren't as many direct flights as there used to be. To really drive this idea home today, guys, I'm going to be talking about taking a flight from my hometown of Ventura, California to my current residence in Chicago, Illinois. The reason I'm choosing Ventura is because it's almost centrally located between Los Angeles Airport and Santa Barbara Airport. Los Angeles Airport is what we call a hub. It's a big airport in a big city. And Santa Barbara is what we would call a regional airport, or what we call it at our company, we call it an outstation. And that's because it's smaller, it's in a less populated area. It has 5 gates and very easy security. And basically, Ventura is about 40 minutes south of Santa Barbara and about 50 miles north of Los Angeles. So it's like 35, 40 miles to Santa Barbara and 50 miles to Los Angeles. And you would think that that 50 miles would mean an hour of driving, but with Los Angeles traffic, it's often a 2-hour drive from Ventura to Los Angeles. So keep that in mind. A lot of people don't consider that when they're traveling, their day of travel actually includes drive time, how long it will take you to drive to your airport. Plus, it's often encouraged that you get there at least 1 to 2 hours before your flight so that you can get through security. Generally, I would say trying to get there in the 1 to 2 hour zone before your flight starts to board is a safe number. So now you're looking at the time that it takes to drive. You're looking at getting to the airport early. You also got to look at like where you park because sometimes parking at the airport is ridiculously expensive. So you might park at a parking place that's specifically for airports, and then you have to take the shuttle bus. And so now you're invested like 4 or 5 hours kind of just to get to the airport. Now, if you were to get a direct flight, say Los Angeles to Chicago, that's about a 4.5 hour flight. And then you land and you go down to baggage claim if you checked bags. And baggage claim takes an average of 25 minutes at O'Hare. It takes an average of like 10 minutes at Santa Barbara. But you would have to wait for your bag to come out with all of the other bags. On top of that, now you got to drive to wherever you're going. So it's really easy to say a day of travel even without connecting flights. However, if you were to do something like Santa Barbara to Chicago, you would have to fly from a small regional airport to generally a larger hub. And then from a hub, you would make a connection. Since you have a day of travel anyway, and you're thinking about it being a day of travel, if you have claustrophobia or agoraphobia or even mysophobia, having one of those issues can make it feel really tough. And you know, since it's your issue, where you can go to get some breathing room. But I'm going to point out some things today that you might not have thought of. And I'm going to be doing that by talking about flying both from Los Angeles, which is normally a mainline flight to Chicago, to possibly changing up your day of travel and starting at an outstation, which is a regional airline, and why you might want to do that. Tip number 2, before you book, take a look. Obviously, for a lot of people, saving money is like a major priority when it comes to traveling. And so they do the most obvious thing, which is they book hub to hub, because hub to hub are generally the cheaper flights. And they also tend to book a couple months out. Now, my goal is to get you to change the way you think, change the way you book tickets. And I'm going to show you why right now. So let's start by looking at the mainline flights, which would be Los Angeles to Chicago direct. Basically, regionals aren't supposed to go from hub to hub. We're supposed to go from outstation to hub and hub to outstation. We can end up at any of the hubs, but we are usually supposed to go to an outstation in between. That's something that the mainline airlines worked out with the regionals that they hire. So then that way their flight attendants and their pilots aren't super ticked that we're taking all their flying. We're taking the flying that they don't want. Mainline flight attendants and pilots, they want to stay at the hubs because big cities is big hotels, nicer hotels, more things to do, and outstations, small towns. A lot of times we end up in the middle of nowhere, and we end up in decent hotels, but not as much stuff to do in smaller towns as there is in bigger towns. So outstations generally are going to have regional flights. Santa Barbara, as an outstation, has both regional and mainline. And that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing Santa Barbara to show you today. But first, we're going to start with what would be the cheaper ticket and how most people book. And what most people do is they start their search a couple months ahead of time from a big airport to a big airport because they're looking for a deal. So right now, today is June 12th, and I put in Tuesday, August 11th to August 18th. And I'm going to just go through first how people normally book. They usually think, oh, I'll get the best deal if I book 2 to 3 months out. This is the wrong thing to do if you're trying to find more space on a plane. And I'm going to show you why. But first, search. Now, Expedia is generally my go-to place. I'm not getting paid to say that at all. As you can see up in the corner here, I got some one key cash from them. I like Expedia because you get some money back when you book, and I tend to book my hotels and stuff through them. I just like Expedia because of a lot of the features that they have. I've used Travelocity for a long time, but Expedia finally won me over when they did the cashback program. Okay, so here are the prices right here. And as you can see, Tuesday is the cheapest day of the week. That's generally the case almost all the time. A lot of times Saturdays are a good deal too. I don't know why that particular Saturday isn't. For August, we're still within the travel season, so the prices are still higher. They're going to start to go on in like September and October. Also, usually at highest in the States around Thanksgiving time and Christmas. But right now, it's June. It's the high season for travel, so it's the most expensive time. A couple months from now, it's going to be cheaper. So you might want to book the 206. And let's just look at some of these. Nonstop LAX Frontier, 4 hours and 18 minutes, $206 per traveler. Delta, $295. American, $295. United, $295. They're all around the same price. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the time here. This is midnight to 6 in the morning. This is a red eye. So yeah, red eyes always have more seats because people generally don't like to take them. Assuming you don't want to do that, that's when you would start looking at the other ones and you would see, okay, what can we fly that we get there the same day? Because nobody really wants to sleep on a plane. It's very uncomfortable. So that's when you would start looking at the other options, and we're looking at about $295. Now, I just want to grab one of these real quick, and I want to show you something. 10:22 a.m. to 4:51. When you go to book now, you've got your basic economy, and look at this right here. Seat choice for a fee. This is happening everywhere now. All of the travel sites say this, even if you go into American's website, United, Delta, whoever, but they're charging for a fee, and there's a reason for that. And I'll get into that in a minute. If you want to pick your own seat, you got to go for the next one up. So now we're looking at an extra, what is that, $72 roughly? First, check bag. Most people don't check their bags anymore. Most people bring on a rollerboard, which is a 20-inch suitcase that they can fit in the overhead bin. And I highly recommend that because it's much easier for your baggage to get lost if you're always going and checking your bags. Assuming you're not checking your bag, this is the option that you should be looking for, the second one where you can pick your seat, especially if you have claustrophobia or agoraphobia. Now let's look at Santa Barbara for the same dates. Okay, so here we go. United, nonstop. Southwest, one stop. United, nonstop. Here's American down here, one stop. You're going through Phoenix. And look at the price. You've gone from $295 to $325. And let's assume you're going to get this one, that you're going for United. And here we go. We've gone from $329 to $429. So it's $100 more to pick your seat. And that is from $367. So for $50, $60 more, you avoid the extra hour drive in traffic, and you're going to a smaller airport that's not going to be crowded, and automatically you're going to start feeling like you have more space, which again, great for the claustrophobics, great for the agoraphobics, and great for the germophobics. Now, I want to change all of that, and we're going to completely throw out everything you just saw, and I'm going to teach you to book a different way. Next tip, consider booking your ticket within the 1 to 3 week zone before you actually need to leave. And in addition, consider booking that as a day of travel. Just jumping in real quick, guys, to say, for those of you who are OCD or maybe anxious passengers, or for those of you that have that type A personality where you like to plan everything down to the minute, don't worry, I don't judge. My best friend is just like that. I do see you, and I do have advice for you. The only thing is, if I add it, it adds like another 15 minutes to this video. So what I've decided to do is the stuff that I remove from these videos that are really good and I think should be in the video but makes the video too long, I'm going to start putting that in like a little separate mini video under the members section. And the members videos are only going to be 99 cents a month if you're in that. I am going to try to answer the members questions more because we've hit 10,000, guys. Thank you guys, because I know I couldn't have done it without you. So many of you are answering questions in the comment section for me and defending me when people are kind of mean, and I appreciate that. I couldn't have done it without you. But yeah, now that we hit 10,000, I'm going to try focusing on the members' questions more and sticking to Q&As on those. I guess we'll see how that works out. But anyway, let's continue on with the video. Now, I know that is going to be hard for a lot of people who get anxiety, who stress out when they travel. But if you want to travel without being stressed, you have to assume that things are going to go wrong at the airline that day, especially with the more flights that you have. If you have at least 2 flights, there's a very good chance you're going to misconnect and you're going to be bumped to the next flight. And it's much better for stress and anxiety if you actually book the day before any kind of special event and just assume that your whole day is going to be wasted going from airport to airport, plane to plane, sitting on runways. If you plan for that day just to be a travel day, you're going to be a lot less stressed when you get to where you're going. Here's the reason I'm saying look at the 1 to 3 week range. Airlines want you to book 2 to 6 months out. They really do, because they want to know how full their planes are going to be. So they often give you the best prices 2 to 6 months out. But as somebody who sits standby a lot, as somebody who is constantly looking at the back end of how many seats are available on a plane, I know that the seats will often fill up the most within the last 24 hours of a flight. In the last 1 to 2 weeks, you get an idea of how many available seats there are, but the true test of how many seats there are comes down to the last 24 hours. Sounds crazy, right? Before I jump into why that is, here's the other thing. If the airlines know how many people they have 2 to 6 months out, that last 2 months, they give a discount to the travel bookers like Expedia and Travelocity, maybe the hotels, so that all of those sites can basically do a killer deal. Now, those killer deals are always in place, but sometimes the deal gets even better based on like the airline going, okay, I need this many seats filled on this plane. And so that's when the package deals come in. And usually the package deals are absolutely positively the best. I'll get into that at the end just to show you guys what that looks like. However, having said that, if you want to be on a plane that isn't fully crowded, you want to look in the 1 to 3 week range. And let me show you what that looks like price wise. So here's Santa Barbara to Chicago, again, an outstation. As I scroll down, I put it from June 23rd to June 30th. Now, again, today is Friday, so this is a little bit more than a week away. And again, I am currently in the busy season. Now, the reason that that matters that I'm in the busy season is because June is always more expensive than August every year, period. But look at what the price is, $362. That's not much farther from what we looked at originally. Again, it's United. If you click on it, again, they do a $100 upcharge to pick your seat on this particular flight. Every airline is different. They try to keep their prices around the same though. So now we're at $552 round trip for you to pick your seats. And that is from an outstation. I'm going to go ahead and select that one, and it's going to ask me to do a return one on the 30th. While it's doing that, I'm going to pop over to LAX. Same thing, June 23rd to June 30th, $365. Same price, but from an outstation. However, because it's not an outstation, it's a hub, when I go to click on this, instead of $100, it's like $50 because it is more competition at the bigger airports. Seat choices included. We're going to go ahead and pick that one. Let's go back to Santa Barbara. Okay, real quick, I'm going to pick this one because there's a $0 fee on that. And again, I'm going to pick the seat choice included. So I've just spent $120 extra to pick my seats. And for Los Angeles for the return trip, I could fly back Delta. I think I picked American, didn't I? I did American. I'm going to go ahead and pick American just to stay consistent. It's sometimes easier. It's adding $120 for me to pick my seat. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So basically, I'm spending about $150 extra roughly to be able to pick my own seat. That may seem like, oh wait, that's way too much. I can't do that. But if you're very claustrophobic, you may want to think about saving up just a little bit extra for that because picking your seat is super important. And the reason it's super important is because of what we in the industry called weight and balance. Now, weight and balance is going to affect your seat choice completely from whether it's 2 or 3 months from now or whether it's next week. And the reason for that is because every person that's on the plane, the FAA naturally assumes weighs a certain amount. They just do a general number for every adult, for every child, and for the bags that they bring, and even the pets that they bring. All of that weight is included. If you go over, that's something completely different. We generally want as much weight to back of the planes as we can get for a smooth takeoff and landing, which a lot of times, at least on the regionals, I think on mainline, they might center their bags more. I feel like they put their bags more around the wings, but on the smaller planes, they tend to put all of the weight of the bags towards the back. People a lot of times will be like, why can't I bring my bag in? Why'd they make me check it? You have space in the overhead. And I tell them the same thing all the time. It's either you bring your bags in and we shove you all to the back of the plane, or we space you out on the plane and we put your bags in cargo to get that extra weight that we need. And I've actually been on planes where we've added weight to the plane, like literal weights that are designed for planes that they just throw in. I think it's called ballast. And that will a lot of times get us to where we need to be for fuel and passengers and bags and everything else so that we can take off safely and land safely. Okay, so take a look. Here is our total so far, $622 versus $535 for these round trip tickets that we'd get and being able to pick our seats. And we're flying a little over a week from now. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to show you what the options are. Now, mind you, both of these flights that I'm showing you are still mainline flights, and they're just the better price ones at this outstation versus a hub. Generally, the flights that most mainline airlines fly are either Airbuses or 737s when they're flying within the US. So I'm going to assume that these are 737s. We're 1 week out. This is Los Angeles to Chicago. And you can see all of these ones that have an upcharge are generally more room between your seat and the seat in front of you. So if you wanted to get more leg room, you can also see here, okay, these are great. I would place myself probably here, somewhere where there's an empty middle seat. Not necessarily though, but look, when you come to the back, you can kind of see all these middle seats are 0. So these are the extra ones that are free. And we're all the way here to the back of the plane. Now here, you see these little arrows. This is the exit row. The exit row, depending on the plane you're on, a lot of times this exit row will have kind of metal armrests on either side of your hips. So if you have bigger hips, it can be very uncomfortable. And then the tray table comes out of the armrest, which is why they do that. So now you got the tray table here. So if you are heavier, you may not want the exit row. If you're claustrophobic though, you get a lot more legroom usually in the exit row. And they pretty much always fill up the exit row. So you're going to be sitting next to someone if you go for the exit row. Here is something to think about when you're picking your tickets. And that is that people always try to place themselves to the front of the airplane. So let's assume if you booked 2 months out and the plane is full, this is what it's going to look like right here. You're just going to have a bunch of empty middle seats. And you're either going to have to pay to get one of these extra ones up here, or you place yourself somewhere back here. Now, people want to get off the plane faster, so they tend to fill up from the front to the back, even with the middle seats. The farther back you go, the more of these empty spaces there are going to be. So you can actually pick one. Now, Again, I would try to pick something like this, where there's already one person in the seat, because people usually travel in pairs, and so they're gonna pick 2 seats. If you pick one like this, you're less likely to have someone put themselves in that middle seat next to you way in the back. Keep in mind, though, the back on all planes always shake harder than the front. So if you have a fear of turbulence at all, you're not gonna wanna sit in the back, you're gonna wanna sit closer to the wings or even in front of the wings, because that's usually where less turbulence is. A lot of these planes wag their tails like dogs. So, assuming that, I'm gonna select that one, and now for the next plane, the return flight, here's Chicago. And again, this is like a week and a half, 2 weeks out. Look at all this empty space. Again, I would come back here as far as I can go. I would look for somebody with 2. Maybe I want the window, I might grab that one. If you're claustrophobic, obviously you're gonna want the aisle because you can get up more. So I might pick that or that. And again, the farther back you go, the more likely it is that the seat is not gonna be filled up. So we're gonna pick that one, and there we go. Now in August, it's very likely this whole plane is gonna be packed full. Let's look at Santa Barbara. So again, right now we're at 6:22 to pick our seats like a week or 2 out. And you can see all these empty seats. Again, these are all the ones that they cost a little more usually because they have more legroom. If you come all the way to the back, they've got it divided. Usually that means that there's like a bathroom there or something. But you can see these ones in the back. Somebody placed themselves one on either side. Those are probably like regular travelers. It might even be a good idea to go for something like this, because if that one doesn't fill up, that person's probably going to move over. So you can see the Chicago to Los Angeles one is a lot more full. And very likely the week of, the crew members are the ones that end up getting those empty seats a lot of times. The standbys get those seats a lot of times. So we often get placed closer to the front because people don't want to pay the extra for these seats. But as I was talking about weight and balance has a lot to do with this, and it has a lot to do with the seats that are available now. So again, just pick a seat that you want, and you're seeing this a week to 2 weeks out. If you book this 2 months out, it's more likely going to look like this because you don't know if the flight that you picked is going to be packed full or not. So if I decide, okay, I want to be at the back, but I don't like any of these, then I can go back and I can pick a different second return flight that would have more seats. So that's why you want to look 1 to 2 weeks out, because then you're going to actually see which seats are already claimed and which ones aren't. And you can pick your seat according to what they have. Next tip, my crazy tip for claustrophobia. Okay, so this is going to sound absolutely insane if you have claustrophobia, agoraphobia, mysophobia. My general tip for you is if you do have one of those phobias and you don't like being around a lot of people, you're going to want to start at an outstation versus a hub. Because again, security line is going to be way shorter, way shorter. A lot of times there's nobody when you get up to security. So that's going to save you time on your drive to the airport and getting through security right there. You're probably gonna save an hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 by going to an outstation instead. And I don't know how much that's worth it to you, like price-wise. On top of that, you're gonna get into the airport, there's gonna be fewer people. The outstations, again, smaller airplanes, so it's fewer passengers. The contracts that generally happen between the regionals and the mainline, because mainline give the flights to the regionals. Like my company, we compete with all the other regionals to get the flights that we get. The contracts generally say that we are not allowed to have planes with more than 100 passengers. So as far as I know, all of the regionals have planes that have less than 100 seats. And they usually either have the Embraers or the CRJs. If you're flying within the country, doing the outstations, smaller planes, pretty much all of the airports have giant glass windows. So I'm assuming you don't have a problem in the airport. And I'm also assuming you don't have a problem with airport bathrooms because they generally have a bigger feel. Here's the other thing. Generally, if you start from an outstation, you are going to take more flights during that day. You're generally going to take 2 to 3 flights. That means for Santa Barbara, we skip United, which has the nonstop, and we might do American. Generally, flights starting between 10 on are more empty. They say the sweet spot is usually about 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is when the flights are the least crowded. So that's the time that you might want to be on a mainline flight. Whereas with the regionals, the first flights of the day, sometimes they have the most passengers, but a lot of times they also have the most misses because people sleep in. However, let's say we pick this one here, 9:45 a.m. to 5:54 p.m., one stop in Phoenix. Now, this is going to get you 1 regional and 1 mainline flight because Phoenix to Chicago is a mainline flight that's pretty much always full. And Santa Barbara to Phoenix is generally emptier. So we've gone from 452 now, and we're spending a little bit more to do 2 flights instead. And as we come down, 1 stop, 1 stop. Here is one with 2 stops. Now, Southwest Airlines generally always flies 737s. It used to be that they had a policy that you would buy your ticket and then you would race to your seat, whatever your seat was, because they didn't assign seats before. But they've recently changed that policy and now they assign seats. And from what I understand from other passengers, now that they're assigning seats, the planes are more empty. I don't imagine that's going to last much longer. So as I'm looking at these, I'm thinking this probably wasn't the best example for more than one flight, because look, 11 hours for 2 stops. I have done before Santa Barbara to Phoenix, Phoenix to Des Moines, and then Des Moines to Chicago, having to do 3 flights. When I did that, I was on regional the entire way. The price, once you're getting into more flights, can be higher. I mean, look at, I'm scrolled all the way down to the bottom. A lot of these flights that have one flight, you're adding a couple hours of travel time. And mind you, that couple hours of travel time is generally on the ground. This one is 50 minutes in Phoenix. So that Santa Barbara to Phoenix flight is about an hour and a half. And then the Phoenix flight to Chicago is about 4 hours as well. And then having 50 minutes on the ground is not much time. I recommend really, if you don't want to stress out, try to give yourself at least an hour to an hour and a half of connecting time, because that's going to allow you to walk around, get your breather. The point is if you were to book more than one flight, let's say like this one, and we're going to select our seat, and then for the return flight, we're going to again go through Phoenix. Maybe for the return flight, I want to leave earlier. I'm going to hit that one up. 183, select. I've spent quite a bit more to be able to pick my seats for 2 flights each way, which is 4 flights. Now you may be thinking, why do you want to do that? I don't understand why you would do this. It's quite simple. The culture difference between regional airlines and mainline airlines is that on mainline, they encourage passengers to keep their shades shut, to darken the plane, make the plane really cold, and that can be really hard if you're claustrophobic or agoraphobic, because you don't have the visual space that you need to calm yourself down. If you're sitting next to a window and you lift the window, you've got 2 seats next to you, so you're kind of trapped in this space with 2 people blocking you in, just so that you can open the window and look out over the clouds and get that visual relaxation that you might need. Whereas a regional is 2 seats and 2 seats on each side. Some of them are 1 and then 2. Like if you're on an Embraer 145 or 140, there's 1 seat, which is A, and then B, C are on the right. Regional, our flights are shorter. We don't necessarily care if you sleep or not. We encourage you to open your windows. So our flights are brighter. There's no awkward middle seats. It's 2 and 2. A lot of the windows are open, so you get a lot of the visual that you need. And let me just show you flight details. Right now we're at $697 to do 2 of these flights. And I'm going to pick the seats for the regional and show you the difference. Okay, this is unexpected. This particular one is not regional, it's mainline, because look, it's 3 seats and 3 seats. But look at how much emptier it is. So they upgraded the plane, and it looks like these back ones are full. A lot of empty seats in the back. But you can see the mainline one from an outstation to a hub right here, a lot more empty. Here's Dallas to Santa Barbara. And again, you can see a lot more empty seats. It's a return flight. It's almost 2 weeks away, but they did the mainline one on that. Let me change this so it's not mainline. I'm going to pick a United one. You can see SkyWest, DBA, United Express. So SkyWest is doing this one. SkyWest is a regional. Even though it's United, it'll probably have a higher cost. Okay, and so then this is Chicago to Santa Barbara. Here is another one. I'm going to do that. Okay, so again, we're looking at United now, and we've got a couple different flights. Right now we're at $682. This includes with the regional. Now Los Angeles to Chicago and back, again, that's mainline. But here's what a regional looks like. 2 seats, 2 seats. And they usually do the divider here because it's different types of zones. Like this one will probably have more leg room. This is economy because it starts at row 7. But you can see from here, row 23 is the back. It's going to cost extra on this particular one. Let's put ourselves here on the aisle, and then hopefully somebody doesn't place themselves next to us. And then here's the next one, the main line. And again, towards the back, you can see you got more of the 2-seaters. Now, here's something to think about when you're picking these seats out. They always have a bathroom at the back, whether it's regional or whether it's mainline. There's always a bathroom at the back. And the more passengers on the plane, the longer the line gets going up this aisle here. So if you place yourself in one of the back rows, there's going to be people standing next to you like all the time. So you want to go a few rows up and not necessarily have the very back row. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place myself here. It's a little bit farther back. It'd probably be best to be here. I'm a window person. Me personally, I would pick this one and then hope that nobody gets in the seat between me and the other person. But for now, let's pick that one and hit select. And then Chicago to LA. I'm going to head to the back. People have already filled it up. You can see the arrows. This is an exit row. And then here's more exit rows. It looks like United is charging whether you want to be on the aisle or not. Only the cheap ones are the middle seats. So I'm going to again look for 2 next to each other like this. I'm going to place myself there. And then finally, the last regional. Again, I'm going to head towards the back and I'm going to pick one there. And then again, like I said, people will often not want to place themselves next to someone. They're going to fill these seats up before they fill up the back seats. And done. And so now we're at $839, which is a lot more than what we started out. It's a few $100s more than the last one. But if you're claustrophobic, you have to ask yourself if that's worth it for you to be able to have a shorter flight where you're less stressed, where you can look out the window, where you don't have somebody sitting next to you, where there's fewer people going to the bathroom. On the regionals, a lot of times, depending on the type of plane, there's often a galley back here, and the galley will space you out from the bathroom. So people don't necessarily stand in the aisle to use the bathroom. They're more likely to stand in the galley, or if they do, they might sit here in the last row if it's empty. But there's far fewer people standing in line on regional for bathroom, and then there's usually one in the front for first class if they have first class. On the regionals, we let you use either bathroom. We want you back in your seat. We don't want to have you standing in the aisle when turbulence happens. That's not really an option so much on a mainline flight. So again, a big cultural difference is the mainline ones darker, colder, longer. They want you to sleep. You have nowhere to look but all the people around you. And just generally there's more space towards the back of the plane. Now again, I mentioned that there are two kinds of claustrophobia. There's the kind where it's the space that you are in that makes you feel panicked. Sitting at the back is going to give you that visual you need all the way to the front of the plane, which can give you some relief. Also, like I said, if you are on regional, you only have one seat next to you. You can often reach over, open that window, get that visual. More of the windows are going to be open on the regionals than on the mainline. So they're usually lighter. Sometimes they're a bit warmer. We try not to make them as cold as mainline makes them, but it's a different feel completely than if you were going on a mainline flight. And that might be worth it to you more if you tend to have a full day of travel anyway. It just kind of comes down to how much you want to torture yourself. Now, for agoraphobics who seeing all those people would be the hard part, then you're going to want to place yourself up towards the front of the plane. And again, the fewer people you see, the better. If you can afford first class, just go for first class. Generally, first class has 2 seats and 2 seats in each row. On the regionals, it's 1 seat and 2 seats. So on the A seats, you get both the aisle and the window, and you got nobody sitting next to you. And if you get yourself as close to the front as possible, that a lot of times relieves a lot of people if you can afford it. So that's what I recommend for that. Now let's talk about checking in. Next tip, checking in and then checking in again. Remember how you have a choice to pick your seat or not pick your seat, and if you don't pick your seat, then you get to spend less? Well, if you don't pick your seat, you're generally going to get stuck in the middle, almost guaranteed. And part of the reason for that is because of the way that the computer will allow seats to be chosen. Check-in always starts 24 hours before the flight leaves. And I highly, highly, highly recommend you set an alarm for that 24-hour minute and check in exactly at 24 hours before, as close as you can. Because other people who understand this secret are logging in and checking in. The most available seats you're going to see are 24 hours before. After that, as people check in, they're going to start snagging the seats that they want. Those seats are going to start disappearing. And you may have already picked your seat. You may have already said, well, I want this seat. Well, 24 hours before, you're going to see if somebody's sitting next to you. And maybe you might want to put yourself farther to the back, or maybe you might want to pay extra to go forward. Or here's another option that a lot of people don't realize. Since COVID, a lot of the airlines have cut the number of points you need to upgrade your seat to the next class. And it's as little as 5,000 points now to get into first class. So if you haven't used your points already to get yourself into first class, this might be the time when you might want to consider doing that by seeing how many seats are full. But here's another trick that a lot of people don't know. You check in at 24 hours, you pick your seat, you think you got nobody next to you, but about 4 to 6 hours before the flight, the day of flying, go back in and look again. People are going to have been checking in during that whole time, but here's what a lot of people don't realize. Because of weight and balance, the computer automatically blocks off complete sections of seats that are available to passengers because they need all of the weight closer towards the wings. And as I said before, each person is calculated at a specific weight for themselves and their bags. Whether they weigh more or they weigh less, it's automatic. Everybody in the computer's mind weighs the exact same amount of weight and their bag's exact same amount of weight. Children the exact same, pets are the exact same. And so the computer calculates all of that and spreads people out throughout the cabin based on that. And then as those zones fill up, it'll open the next zone and the next zone. And finally, about 4 to 6 hours before, even up to 2 hours before the flight leaves, the computer a lot of times will still be open. It depends on the airline, but 4 to 6 hours, the computer is still open. You can still change your seats by just going into the airline's website and moving yourself around. So you want to go back in and you want to see where the computer has let people place themselves. And in the 4 to 6 hour range, pretty much almost all of the zones will be open, and you'll be able to see if these seats way back here were closed on purpose because of weight and balance. Like it says that all of these are marked off, but they might not be full. They might actually be empty and the computer has marked them off. And this is the only one that it's left open for some reason. And that might be because of when somebody picked their seat. But the seats that are gonna be available 24 hours before are going to be different than the seats that are available 4 to 6 hours. And you may think, "Well, I'll just wait for the 4 to 6 hour mark." Except if you wait for the 4 to 6 hour mark and that flight is oversold, you're gonna end up in the middle seat. So check in at the 24-hour mark, and then 4 to 6 hours before your flight leaves, check in again and see if the other zones have been opened and if maybe there's a better seat for you farther in the back. And again, keep in mind where the bathroom is on that flight. There's always one in the back. A lot of times when you see a gap like this, there might be a bathroom in the middle as well, depending on how big the plane is. Now let's talk about the dreaded bathroom. No matter what plane you are on, the bathroom is going to feel small. It's going to feel tight. On every plane, they're generally around the same size. Bathroom culture on mainline versus regional is very different. Mainline flight attendants will often not let you use the first class bathroom unless you're in first class. They will literally turn you away and send you to the back. They've literally done that to me in uniform. They know that I'm a flight attendant, but they get this arrogance about them when they work in first class on mainline where they're like, "No, you're a peasant. Go back to the peasant section." Like I said, with regional, we don't have that attitude. We're like, use either bathroom because we want you to sit back down. We're worried that we're going to hit turbulence and you might get hurt. We don't want that. So we're like, sure, use the front, use the back. Generally, the bathrooms in the front is going to shake less than the bathroom in the back. But I know on a lot of the flights, a lot of times the bathroom in the back on the regionals are larger. Here's the thing. Regional flights are generally anywhere from a 15-minute flight to about 2.5 to 3 hours, whereas mainline flights are usually anywhere from 2.5 to like 6, 7, 8 hours within the country. Obviously, if they're going international, you're looking at 8, 10, 12, 16-hour flights. If you were to choose 2 to 3 flights and pick a regional plane, you're going to spend less time in the plane, so you're going to be able to use the airport bathroom more. Just use it before you get on the plane, and you'll probably make it through the whole flight without having to use the restroom, and then you can use it in the airport again, which is going to save you. Whereas if you're on a 4.5 hour flight and then you add in the taxi time, which is easily an hour, that's 5.5 hours you have to go without using the bathroom. That doesn't work for a lot of people. But say you're stuck on the plane, you have to use the bathroom anyway. What do you do? There's two things you can do. You could go and let the flight attendant number one know that you have claustrophobia. And if they seem open to what you're saying, you can ask them, would it be okay if I need to use the restroom if I come up here? Tell them this as you're getting on the plane. They're generally in a hurry. They might agree, they might not agree. Just as you step on, like, excuse me, just real quick. I have claustrophobia. I tend to panic if I'm in small spaces. If I need to use the restroom later, would it be okay to come up here to use it? And they'll either tell you yes or no right then. If they say yes, great. When the flight goes on, go up and do what I'm about to tell you. If they say no, you're stuck with the flight attendants in the back. What you're going to do is you're going to probably want to wait until the aisle is clear. You're going to head back there. You're going to talk to the flight attendant and say, "Excuse me, I have claustrophobia. If I close the door, I'm going to have a panic attack and I might pass out. By any chance, could you guard the door for me so I can leave it cracked open?" I have actually done that many times for passengers. I have guarded the door when a child was in there who couldn't close the door or an adult who had claustrophobia. It's easier on regional flights because generally there's a galley and we just block people from going in our galley, but every plane is different. Again, just asking the flight attendant to guard the door for you, they will generally make things happen so that you can leave the door open while you use the restroom. And that is the bathroom etiquette that I would say is different between regional and mainline. Grab your remote, guys, because it's about that time. It's giveaway time. So last week's question I asked, what is the weirdest thing that you have ever traveled with? And I got some fantastic responses. In fact, I picked a few for the winners of last week. Actually, it's been 2 weeks. Sorry it's been so long, guys. I have recorded a couple videos, but technical difficulties on both. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with my editing software, and I am trying to get this all solved, but anyway, this is the weirdest thing that I have ever traveled with. It is my yoga wheel. I love this thing. I use it to pop my back. And when I bought it, it came with a 3-pack with 3 different sizes. So the other 2 were smaller, and then a travel bag. And so I left the smaller ones out and I would shove clothes in the circle and carry this with me. It's kind of like my counterbalance to my bag. But eventually I was like, it's too awkward to do that. And I stopped carrying it for like 10 seconds of relief. Because, like I said, all it does is pop my back. So that now stays home. I could travel with one of the smaller ones, but unfortunately I donated them. So yeah, might have to buy a smaller one just to take it because it is fantastic if you tend to get a lot of pain. But anyway, some of you guys, great ones. Here's a few of my favorites. These are the winners for the giveaways from the last video. Asher Skylark said, "The most unforgettable item I took on a trip was my office stapler. I forgot that I had put it in my sling bag, which gave me a good laugh. I took photos during our trip, and my office colleagues got jealous after seeing them and made hilarious remarks like, at least the stapler got itself a vacation. To this day, I still have the stapler." I love that one. Here's another one that I thought was really funny. half a dozen small frame photos of me that I left in the Airbnbs and hotels I stayed at. No idea how long they stayed there before they were noticed and removed, but it still gives me a giggle now when I think about it. And that was Miss Lizzie T. Miss Lizzie T, were you wearing a bikini or like how were you dressed in these photos? I'm just curious. Was there a mascot uniform? Because I'd like to see that. I feel like photos should be included. Here is a great one from Lisa Ferris, another winner. Weirdest thing I bring is an ultralight headlamp. It has different light levels and red light, so if you can't sleep during flights, you can read a book and it doesn't disturb your neighbors. Used it during a power outage to light our room, put on brightest setting and lay it on bed. Light pointed at ceiling, can look for things that drop and promptly roll under furniture, and you can shine it in someone's eyes at night if they try to mug you to night blind them. What a great tip, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that. And then finally, my fourth winner, which I think is fantastic, is Zerlina001. Dryer sheets that I cut up in quarters. Why? Fred's dad was an exterminator. His wife was a flight attendant. Bedbugs don't like the smell of dryer sheets. Put 1/4 under each corner of the mattress in your hotel room and leave a couple in your suitcase and a personal item bag. Bugs will leave them alone. That has to be one of the best tips that I have seen, Zerlina. So you actually get a gimme pass, which means that you can cash it in for any of the prizes in the next 6 months. And one more gimme pass, that is for Tracy Hebert at Red Ducks Fly. Tracy has been commenting on so many of my videos, chatting with people for me. I love that kind of interactiveness. So Tracy, you also get a gimme pass. Make sure you guys go to faguides.com/winners. Also, just as a video, because I don't have anything to really leave you with, I'm going to leave you with this video that I saw this week of Josh Johnson. I know a lot of you are probably Republicans that are watching this, and you may not like some of the Democratic stuff. This one's just funny. I don't think it's anything that'll offend Republicans. I think it's kind of appropriate considering that today is the 15th. It's actually my husband's birthday today. And yesterday was the 14th, June 14th. And I don't know if you know what happened yesterday, but let Josh Johnson tell you. So here's that video. If you guys like this, let me know by hitting the like button, subscribe, notification bell if you want to be contacted for more giveaways, and hopefully you saw the question. Remember to answer it in the pinned comment below so you can enter the next giveaway. Thanks for watching, guys. Ciao!